Good day, everyone. Okay, good day, everyone. The next topic is all about racial discrimination, and our reporter for this day for this topic is Mr. Gabriel. So let me share the screen.
We're now good evening, everyone. So we are now on the fifth unit of the last week of our discussion, and our discussion for today talks about racial discrimination. So before we proceed to our discussion, last week we had a discussion on issues and problems in the use of technology, where we discuss the use of technology, especially today in our daily lives, and what are the repercussions or the different what are the different effects that technology has given to us, the good and the bad, especially since they're focusing on the issues and problem. And now, in the last week on our unit on the world issues, we have now a new discussion about racial discrimination. So first, before we proceed to our discussion proper, let us know first our intended learning outcome. So first, understand the concept and issue on discrimination. Then second, identify the different issues on discrimination around the world. Third, identify the different types of discrimination. And last one, formulate solutions about discrimination. So first we need to discuss first what is discrimination. Discrimination, it harms someone's rights because of who they are or what they believe. It perpetuates inequality as some from those in positions of privilege or power contributes or causes someone belonging to a different group to suffer. And last, it looks down on a person because of their belief, religion, social status, level of education, or skin color. So when we talk about discrimination, it is something experienced by people, especially from those from minorities or those to be looked down by people, especially by those who are in power. So when we talking about discrimination, the rights of the people are harmed, everything that they have is in danger or they are at risk of something from someone. So with discrimination, there is a talk about inequality, about maybe violence, different kinds of negative things that surrounds them, and also with the reason of their belief, religion, their status in life, the level of education is that, and most usually is on their race or skin color. Now, discrimination has been in the pages of history. So, when we talk about this, discrimination is not now a new thing for us because discrimination has been witnessed by many people around the world and many people a long time ago. So discrimination has been present when white Aryans forbade their comrades to associate with black Harappans. So this is during the time of Indian civilization, you know, the Aryans and the Harappans. So white Aryans discriminate their comrades to associate with the black Harappans during this time. And next, favoring of having a son as the heir, since they are conducive to military and economic activities than of a daughter or woman. So especially to a monarchy or to a system of government where they have leaders or they have rulers to rule their country or kingdom, it is favorable for them to have a male heir because they see that having male heir, male has the tendency to get the job done. They are strong. They have the will to control a strong kingdom, military, and any economic activities than of a woman or their daughters. So that's why it is favorable to a royal family to have a firstborn son or a male heir than having a daughter or woman. Then the classifications of people in Asian lands. There are different peoples in Asian land, and also there is still a presence of discrimination in there. And the killing of 6 million Jews by Adolf Hitler. This was during his control on Germany in other places that was controlled by the Germans. And this was also in the time during the Holocaust when Adolf Hitler killed this numerous big number of Jews during his time. So as time progresses, discrimination still continues to occur. So with that examples of people people who are suffering from discrimination during that time, it is not surprise until now that we have still issues about discrimination. Diba? Before we proceed, we can say that we have experienced or we have seen discrimination being played out to other people. So it is not a what we call it is not a surprising issue, and it is kind of a sad fact because we all know about the situation then, but there is no action done to it to be stopped or to be prevented. So as time progresses, we have this new the recent times there's still discrimination happening, especially with women at the workplace, with children favoring the son than the daughters, or the religious or any racial related discrimination or conflicts that is happening around us to this time. So with history and until now, discrimination, we're sad to say discrimination is still in fact present and still occurring and still leading people to suffer. So in the United States, whites look down on blacks. So there are no American people of color that become the president of America. So if you've read or seen any documentaries or movies about the United States, especially during a long time, one of the darkest history of the United States is talking about discrimination, slavery, and the looking down on the Black Americans. So the white Americans during that time was with power and privilege than on the Black American. So especially when in their social status, economic and political status, whites have the control and the privilege than of the Black, especially to the political aspects of the United States of America. There are no American people of color that become the president of America. However, this has been changed, especially uh, for the past year. We have now the first African American Black president of the United States of America, which is Barack Obama, and he served United States for 2 terms. So that is on. There is still, as we can see, there is still presence of discrimination. However, we are progressing. We are, even though it is small thing or big thing, we're still progressing towards having a place where discrimination is not present. Even though there's still occurrence of it, we are thriving towards eliminating this issue. So even when the country is known for its advocacy of democracy and equality, respect for other races is not that present and practiced by its people. So we know that United States is the land of opportunity, the land where people go on other sides of the world, going to United States to have their opportunities, to have a new life, diba? So people go to United States with the hope of their lives becoming good than of staying in the original land or the original country. So United States is welcoming. They're welcoming very many migrants or immigrants from other countries. However, with that, there is still presence of discrimination. They fight for democracy and equality and openness for every people around the world as they welcome them in their land, but some people there do not see this as a positive thing because they still look down on these people and they are discriminating these people coming from around the world. And we know this figure, this important figure, one of the president of the United States. It is Abraham Lincoln. This is the 16th president of the United States of America. So he was known for the liberation of black slaves and for favoring the equality of the white and black races in society and politics. So during this time, no, slavery, especially on the issues of slavery, where blacks are considered slave by the whites. So he was the president to make known uh, of the rights. He is one of the prominent figure who fight for the rights and liberation of the black slaves and uh, giving action, especially for the equality to be to be achieved by the black people, especially when it comes to their societal status or their participation in politics or any aspects in the country or in the society. So as you can see, you can search. There is a speech, uh, though one of the speeches of Abraham Lincoln talking about discrimination and talking about the liberation about the black slaves and all about the issues on black and whites in the United States. So uh, Abraham Lincoln is one of the figurehead in making a way to fight for the liberation and rights of the Black Americans during his time or term. So during the American Revolution, George Washington rejected the voluntary membership of Blacks who fled their masters in the hope that freedom would be achieved by then. So we will going back to the American Revolution where George Washington, one of the fathers of the United States, no? So he rejected the voluntary membership of blacks who fled from their masters, especially because they are slaves, in the hope that freedom would be achieved by them. So during the American Revolution, there is a need for people uh, to join the army to fight for the United States. However, Washington was not into this idea. So he rejected any membership coming from the Black Americans, especially these Black Americans happen to be escaped happen to be escaping from their masters out of slavery. So it is not a good thing for George Washington to do. So next, after the Civil War in 1865, the Ku Klux Klan or Ku Klux Klan resented the granting of blacks the right to vote, which led to violence. So Ku Klux Klan is known group, especially in the dark history of United States, where they are against other races, especially the blacks or African American that is living in the country. So they see that they are known for white supremacy. Whites have the power or the privilege to live and to have the abundance of their country. So they are against black people. So they're discriminating, which led to different issues, problems, especially to violence. So during this time, they are fighting for black people to do for they don't have the right to vote. And with that action that they have done, it led to violence. Especially many black people were harmed or even died during this time. And another prominent figure that helped on the Black movement is Martin Luther King Jr. So he's a known activist fighting for the Black people and African American who are living in the United States. So his artistic campaigning for the rights of the Blacks or African Americans helped and weakened the continuing discrimination during that time. So with all this discrimination, especially other groups are threatening the blacks and the African Americans, so there is a need for them to do action. So Martin Luther King Jr. is one of the prominent figure to fight for the rights of his people. So with his campaigning, especially a peaceful campaigning, because they're still under the rule of white supremacy. They can still be killed. So they have to be wise enough with their actions. So they do this artistic campaigning, peaceful campaigning, in order to reach out to other people about their rights, so that many people also can know about this issue and can provide help or support to them. And with this campaign that he did, it helped and weakened the continuing discrimination against their people during that time. So after these issues, especially in on discrimination on United States, there is a big issue that happened also in the continent of Africa. So we proceed to the country of South Africa. So in this topic, we will talk about the apartheid system in South Africa. Apartheid coming from the Afrikaans language, which means apart, separate, or segregate, anything about tearing away apart. That is apartheid. So that is from the African word which means separate, away, or being segregated. So that is apartheid. So what happens here in this system? So in 1948, after the National Party gained power in South Africa, its all-white government began to take control on the economy and politics and enforcing existing policies of racial segregation. So as we can see, more on our generalization, diba? Since we are on the continent of Africa, specifically on the country of South Africa. So it is known that it's predominantly black. Many people are black there. However, there are still people, especially based on the skin color, there are white people also there, especially coming from especially from Europe, since African countries has been colonized by the colonizers, especially the Europeans. So there is a presence of white people, there are people with lighter skin, but predominantly there black people are living in this country. However, it's changed. That's why in the 1948, the National Party, which is an all-white government, gained control and took over any aspects of South Africa, their economy, their politics, any societal rules, they take control and they take over. So, with the economy and politics and enforcing existing policies of racial segregation. So with that, no, with other in the society also they make changes like yes, like segregating white from blacks. So there is a place only for black people, or there is a place only for white people, and mostly more and more places or privileges or services have been given to the white people than to the black people. So whites enacted a law that set out rights to what extent blacks could act and only on what they could do. So there is a law that permitted only or has limited only the rights of the black people, especially on what they could do, where they could go, or what. anything they could have done or any privileges. There's a limit, especially when you are black during that time. Even people who should associate with blacks are regulated by this law. So everyone is being under control by this law. Yeah, if you are black, you are in danger. If you are associated with a black person or you're helping against the white supremacy during that time, you will be regulated by their law. As you can see in the picture now, this very disturbing picture. Diba? There is a place where people cannot go to, or there are any services that the blacks cannot achieve or have. So that is on the problem of the on the apartheid system. So the African National Congress, or ANC, formed in 1912, and the first nationalist movement in all of Africa, opposed the government during apartheid and had launched peaceful campaigns against it. So during this time, no, there is the formation of the African National Congress in 1912. So this is already a matagal-tagal na din itong uh, congress or organization during this time. And during that time, during 1940s and 1950s, during the apartheid system, so this organization has had to do some action. So of course, being this organization being predominantly black or all black, they are against the apartheid system. So the actions they could do is by launching peaceful campaign against it. So diba, they can act on force because the law is still regulated against them. So they have to do something else. That's why they are launching peaceful campaigns against it. So because of this, the government arrested and sentenced ANC leaders to life imprisonment. So there are many leaders, or the one who leads this ANC will be put into imprisonment, especially di ba, the white government, of course, is against their campaign, since it is against their law and against their favor. So they had to do some actions too. So they this led to sentencing the ANC leaders into imprisonment. So one of these prominent figure is Nelson Mandela. So what is with Nelson Mandela? So Nelson Mandela, di ba, we heard of him. We've seen it in any history books or any discussion that we have on our past lessons or lessons we have on high school. So we know of Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, he became the symbol of the struggle against the apartheid policy. So with Nelson Mandela being the leader of the African National Congress, he was sentenced into life imprisonment. So he's one of the symbol for having the struggle against this policy in the South Africa during the apartheid system. So he was imprisoned for about 3 decades, but did not stop the fight. Of course, Nelson Mandela and the ANC has its supporting big following or big followers. So they have to continue to fight. And also Nelson Mandela being a figure or a symbol of hope or a symbol of uh, resistance against this cruel government. So he needs to do some actions too. He did not stop the fight. Because of this, investment as the apartheid system continues, investment companies, products, and international banks, as well as other countries, boycotted the white government in South Africa. So during this time, no, it is already a world issue of the apartheid system. All of the companies, banks, international banks related to the South Africa, knowing about this issue, has made also their actions. So they boycotted, they impose sanctions, and also they are cutting off the ties or relationship, anything related to South Africa. So banks break or close the deals uh, against the South African government. Other countries cut off their ties or relationship with the South African country. So with that, as international banks, companies, and other countries cut off their ties against the country, so South Africa has been facing difficulties, especially on their economy. So until their economy was affected, there was no other actions to be done by the government during the apartheid system, but to force or enforce or to change their policy, which forced them to change their policy. And with that, on February 11, 1990, through President F.W. de Klerk, so this president was the last apartheid president during that time, and because the country is suffering because of the actions by the continuing protest and the support given by other countries. So there was no other way but to impose changes in the government system. So during being the last president of of the apartheid system, F.W. de Klerk has no other choice but to make or impose different changes, starting with the release of the ANC leaders, especially Nelson Mandela. So in 1994, by the end of the apartheid system, in 1994, Mandela was elected the president of the country, and he was the first black president of South Africa. So with that, now starting from 1948 or 1950s, going into 1994, the apartheid system has fallen, and the democracy and liberation and the rights of black South Africans has been given to them for how many years or decades. So with the lead of Nelson Mandela being now the elected president of the country. So that is on the apartheid system or issue in South Africa. So aside from South Africa, there is still presence of discrimination in other parts of the world. So what are these? So in Australia, there is indigenous people or inhabitants living in the country or continent. So their original inhabitants were the Aborigines or Aborigines, indigenous people with dark skin. So, however, in 1788, Europeans arrived and discrimination began, and whites deprived blacks attention. So, with the colonizers, especially Europeans arriving to their place, so there is a new way of looking into other people. So aside from imposing this political and economic changes, there is also a difference in societal ways or how people would see others. So in 1778, no, with the arrival of the Europeans, the whites, especially the Europeans living in Australia, has deprived the attention of the black people, especially the indigenous people living in the country. So even in the Australian census, they were not included by the government, especially Aborigines, being the people, the original people or the original inhabitant of the country, they were still deprived of their privileges or attention that they the attention that they need. So in the other side of the country or the world, in Great Britain, in 1950s, Indians and Pakistanis immigrated to Great Britain. So history tells us that, diba, India is one of the colonies of the United Kingdom or Great Britain. So in 1950s, with that, Indians and Pakistanis immigrated to Great Britain, and with over 1 million immigrants and Britain becoming competitors in the livelihood. So with the coming of million immigrants, as immigrants uh, arrive in the country, so Britain or any people living in Great Britain have seen this arrival of or have seen this action to be threatening, because especially on talking about livelihood or jobs or employment, they are seen to be competitors. Maybe in their mind they see that mawawalan sila ng opportunity na magkaroon ng hanap buhay, kasi marami ng tao ang nagpupunta sa bayan nila. So it reaches the British Parliament, where it urges to keep Great Britain white. So with the Britain and other people living in Great Britain, so it had reached the British Parliament, where they demand and urges the government to keep Great Britain white. So keeping away these people or any immigrant black people away from their country. So after that discussion on discrimination around the world, so we proceed to religious discrimination. So aside from races and other backgrounds, so there's also discrimination on relating to religion. So religion is the root of the caste system that has existed in India for a long time. So, di ba, during the Indian the in India, there is a belief that the people is sorted in a way or has different positions in the society. There are different places or status in their society. So we have no, diba, at the top part we have the priest, the the ones who are communal with God. So they are at the top part of the caste system. So diba, then we proceed to the people in the law or in government, and then we have as we proceed to the different backgrounds of people, then we have now the Dalits or the untouchables. So at the low part of the caste system, we have the untouchables or the Dalits as they called. So what are these Dalits? These Dalits are the people, especially the ones who they called are dirty, especially these people related to street cleaners or anything that cleans the street. So they are seen to be below the caste system or being dirty. So that's why they're called untouchable. No one from the community want to commune with them or to be with them. So that's why there is the existing uh, issue of discrimination, especially since it talks about their religion. So because they believe that people should be sorted or should be segregated in this way, or there is an order of people where there is people at the top and there is people at the bottom. So with this view on in this belief in religion, there is still presence of discrimination. The religious wars between the Muslim and Hindu, which claimed millions of lives, was exacerbated by discrimination. So also there are some religious war, especially with the Muslim and the Hindus. This going back and forth, their hatred with one another have charged many millions of lives. And with discrimination, this religious war have been have worsened during as discrimination progresses, or there's still presence of discrimination. So the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi, Indira Gandhi, and Rajiv Gandhi are believed to have religious roots. So di ba we know that Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated. So they believe, especially on the death of Mahatma Gandhi, was related to any religious related. So as research provides that this man that killed, especially Mahatma Gandhi, was against the teaching, against of his teaching, especially on the Mahatma Gandhi believes that everyone is equal, everyone is present, everyone should be welcome. And this man that killed Mahatma Gandhi was an extremist or against his teaching. So that is one of the reason why he killed Mahatma Gandhi. So anything reason they believe that it is related to religion. Also, on the other side, in Germany, during the ruling of Hitler, he killed millions of Jews in the areas he occupied, especially in Germany and in Poland. The Holocaust, which was a dark part of our history of the world, where millions of Jews, different minorities around the areas that Adolf Hitler occupied, were killed. So, diba, at least uh, focusing on the Jews, there were 6 million Jews died because of the Holocaust. And in Africa, as Islam spread across the continent, people who refused to convert were isolated and enslaved or severely punished. So with Africa, one of the continent or their countries are mostly predominantly uh, Muslim or Islam, practicing the Islam faith. So some extremist Islam or Muslim uh, who will know that you will not convert or will refuse to take part to be part of them, you will be isolated or enslaved or severely punished or even will be put to death. So that is on religious discrimination. We proceed. Let us go to the different types of discrimination. So first type of discrimination is direct discrimination. So what is direct discrimination? This happens when someone treats you worse than another person in a similar situation because of your race. So there is a direct reason with that. For example, on your race. So for example, if for example there's an agency or there is a company or any institution that you want to have access on, but however they won't let you because you are black or you are different from them. For example, there is a white person coming to this place, and they were treated nicely, and then you came along and they see that you are different from them, then you are treated worse. So that is an example of direct discrimination. So because of the reason that you are different, because of your race, because of your belief, there you are treated worse. So that is direct discrimination. However, indirect discrimination, this happens when an organization has a particular policy or way of working that puts people of your racial group at the advantage. So, for example, a hairdresser a hairdresser at the salon refuses his employee to cover their hair. So if you're an employee at this salon, since he or she is a hairdresser, he or she would find hair important. So with that, since you are one of his or her employee, you are under their rule that you will not cover your hair. So what happened if there are employees that are Muslim, so they are forced to also to not cover their hair, which is against their beliefs or against on what they feel. So, 'di ba, hindi masyadong binigyan ng reason or valid na reason bakit ginawa yon. So, it is just on the beliefs of that person na wala siyang pakialam kung anong nafi-feel ng iba or anong mangyari sa iba, basta masunod lang niya yung kanyang gusto. So that is on the indirect discrimination. So sometimes an indirect discrimination can sometimes be permitted if they are able to show a good reason for the discrimination. This is known as objective justification. Diba? On the last example, on the hairdresser not wanting to cover the hairs and this put especially Muslim woman on threat, or they will feel uncomfortable because they need to wear their hijab or they need to cover their hair. That is seen to be not a good reason for the discrimination, or it is discrimination but is not in a good reason. However, this indirect discrimination can be or of having shown a good reason. So that is called objective justification. You are being indirectly discriminated, but there is a reason, a good reason for it. For example, you want to access a service, especially a bank. For example, you are Asian or you are Black or you're from other any African countries, and you go, for example, to United States. You need to take the service of this bank, and they will not let you have this promo or this service because of for example, a reason is you need to live in the country, especially you need to live in the country that you live now at least 2 to 3 years. So, but that is also in indirect discrimination because you are not given the services. However, there is a good reason for it. So, diba? Since you're still new to the country, and their law states that it should at least you're living 2 to 3 years in order to get this service or promo, then it's shown that to have a good reason. So you're being indirectly discriminated. However, there is a good reason for it. However, it's not really a good reason because you are still discriminated. So next is on harassment. So harassment, it occurs when someone makes you feel humiliated, offended, or degraded. So, di ba? For example, you are in a group. For example, you are the only Asian person in the group, and his colleagues say something bad about you. They make fun of the way you talk, your accent, or your your face or facial structure, anything, and you feel, diba, you feel embarrassed, you feel humiliated, offended, because of something that you are Asian, you have this characteristics about you, but you're humiliated, or you are teased about this. So that is a form of discrimination, or in this type, which is harassment. So, you diba, no? So harassment can never be justified. Diba? So when you feel harassed, so that can never be justified by a harasser. So for example, diba, kung na-feel mo talaga na you feel humiliated, you feel offended by the action or anything that they have said or done to you, that can never be justified because you feel that way. You are suffering because of what they have done. Next is victimization, another type of discrimination. This is when you are treated badly for making a complaint of race-related discrimination. So, for example of this is, for example, a young man want to uh, complain to his employer, for example, to his boss, that the environment, the working environment of his work during this time is not good, and he is making him feel is making me feel discriminated, especially with how customers or how his coworkers made him feel. So, di ba? So you would feel na biktima ka talaga ng discrimination. So for example, yun yung na feel ng employee, he would go to his employer or boss that he file a complaint about this, that his working environment is not healthy or toxic for him because he is being discriminated. Now, this victimization comes in when his manager threatened. Gina-threat niya ang victim. Di ba siya na yung victim? Siya pa yung na-threaten. So, he would threaten would would make a threat against the complaint of the victim to, for example, mag-threat siya nga, you will not talk about this or I will fire you. So that is an example of victimization. So there is a complaint given to you by the victim. However, wala kang ginawang action para ma-stop lang siya. It's either you hide it or hindi mo lang siya ginawa ng proper action. So that is on victimization. So it can also happen if you are supporting someone who made a complaint of race-related discrimination. For example, ikaw yung nakapansin sa nangyari ng iyong coworker, ikaw yung nag-file ng complaint at yun din yung ginawa ng boss sa'yo. For example, nakita mo yung friend mo na or coworker mo na feel discriminated and you made a complaint. However, the action done by the employer or your boss was not right. Then last type of discrimination is intersectional discrimination. So this is when several forms of discrimination combine to leave a particular group or groups at an even greater disadvantage. So di ba, discrimination happens to minorities, minorities, ethnic minorities, races, even gender, especially on women. Especially with people like this or people in minorities, they would feel discriminated. And with intersectional discrimination, so an example of this is the work pay or the yung mga sweldo nila. For example, if you are a woman working in this company, you're given, some companies would give you less than what was given to the male workers. So that is an example of intersectional discrimination, especially for example, all women in the workplace are given less than of all the men in the workplace, or all the black people working are given less than all the white people working in the workplace. So that is an example of intersectional discrimination. So there is a particular group or groups wherein the minority are experiencing a great disadvantage. So that is on the different types of discrimination. So last, we talk about the religious discrimination. Now we would go to gender discrimination. So this is another also, it can be another type of also of discrimination. So what is in gender discrimination? So there are still countries in the world that have laws, policies, customs, and beliefs that exist denying women and girls their rights. So as time progresses, also the country and the society also progresses. We have this technological advancement. We have all these things that has been helpful for us in our day-to-day lives. However, there are still laws, there are still policies and customs that can be traced back to history, that can be traced back to a long time ago, especially on treating other people equally, especially on the rights of women and girls. So as time progresses, there are still these policies and laws that have not evolved or have not been prevented as time progresses. So one of this is on the issues of women and women, the rights of the women. So according to their law, women cannot dress as they like, especially on countries like Saudi Arabia or Iran, then or even work at night for countries like Madagascar, or take out a loan without their husband's signature, as happened on the country of Equatorial Guinea. So this example of this examples of discrimination against, the example of these issues happening to women is a manifestation that discrimination, gender discrimination, is still present until now. So in many countries, discriminatory laws place limits on women's right to divorce, own property, exercise control over her own body, and enjoy protection from harassment. So even there are still laws that puts limits to the rights of women, even to divorce, even to for example, on the work pay that they need to receive, on their right to own a property, on the right to wear what they want, on right what they can do to their body. There is still a limit to it, especially as passed by their laws. And women and children take to the streets to claim their human rights and demand gender equality. So with the existence of the issues on gender discrimination, there's no other way, as history also taught us and teach us, that the proper way or the right way also to solve a issue is to let everyone know, about this issue, to let everyone know what the action can be done. So that's why in this, with gender discrimination, women and girls take to the streets to claim their human rights and demand gender equality. So in the USA, Europe, and Japan, women protested against misogyny or hatred against women and abuse as part of the Me Too marches. So Me Too movement is a movement that was help to be that was a help to support women who are survivors or victims of sexual abuse. So that is on Me Too movement. So Me Too move aside from that, Me Too movement focuses on anything issues and concern that is related to or concerning to women around the world. So USA, Europe, and Japan, women protested against misogyny and abuse. Then in Argentina, Ireland, and Poland, women demonstrated to demand a stop to oppressive abortion laws. So even up to this now, there are still different laws that is against abortion, especially here in the example Argentina, Ireland, and Poland, being they are also considered uh, to be a country that is what do you call that? Their views on this progressive ideas is they are not supportive about it, diba? Like for example, on abortion laws. So that's why there is a demand, especially on women, to fight for this issue. Especially they see that abortion is a right for a woman to do or to decide. Then in Saudi Arabia, they called for an end to the driving ban, and in Iran, they demanded to end to force hijab or veiling. So in Saudi Arabia, there's a law that banning every woman to have their car or to drive, even to drive, diba? Even to have their own car and to drive around their place is prohibited for women. And in Iran, they demanded also to end to force every woman, especially someone who is, for example, especially someone who is not Muslim or is not related to Islam, is still forced to wear a hijab. So that is on their demands. So despite on all the demands and rights of women's activism, reality remains as some governments around the world openly support policies, laws, customs that subjugate and suppress women with all the things, with all the process and actions done by the women in order to get the rights given unto them. Reality slapped us that there is still presence of discrimination against women, especially with the government, especially with the support of the laws and policies and custom that is against or suppressing women. So globally, 40% of women of childbearing age live in countries where abortion remains highly restricted or inaccessible in practice, even when allowed by law, and some 225 million do not have the access to modern contraception. Uh, diba? Some countries are conservative. That's the word, conservative, especially here in the Philippines. Being the Philippines is one of the Christian, predominantly Christian country, and we are one of, to be honest, in fact, we are the only country, the only country aside from Vatican, uh, to have to have who are against who are against who are against divorce, diba? So, and also with abortion, the country is against also abortion. So with other countries, women across the countries or even here have thought that it is their right, that example, abortion and having the utilization of contraception is with their right. So that's why most women are fighting for this, fighting for example, abortion to be legal, abortion to be accessed by any woman, or abortion to be a woman's choice, especially when they are pregnant or in where they are pregnant or having to have access to modern contraception, how to use properly contraceptions, di ba? So it is with their right, the woman's right, to have all this access. And to be honest, it is still hard, especially here in a country in Philippines, to to have this right given to women. So especially even women here in the country, it's not did not believe that it is their right because, di ba, uh, religion talking, they are influenced by their beliefs that it is not right for a woman to abort a child. It is not right for a woman to use contraceptions. However, as time progresses, we also have to progress with our with our ideas and thoughts in the society on how we view people and how we view women. So just for me, I'm not influencing everyone, but people or government should listen to the rights, listen to the demands, especially on women, especially on their right to do what they want on their body. Even until now, we still have a say on what women should wear. We still have violent reaction when we saw women wearing something that is not it is not good, or not is that is not conservative enough for our liking, diba? Even with that, we still have violent reactions on that. And when we talk about this big concern like abortion, the use of contraceptives, reproductive health, sex education, we are still influenced by our own beliefs, and that is not right for us, especially me as a man, biologically. It's not right for us to talk against it because me, I don't have a experience with it. So what kung sino yung nakaka-experience ng ganun, sila yung may karapatan na to have a say, to have a demand on their right. So that's why there is a need to listen to the demands of the people. If they say abortion is their right, or abortion is the decision that they have, we have no right but to support them. Or if it's not into our liking, we should not suppress them, or we should not talk against them, because it is their decision, it is their right. If they want to have abortion, if they want to have contraception, it is their right, it is their, as long as have they have decided against it, they have the peace of mind against it, we should support it, or if not, if like it is not like for us, we should keep our mouth shut, di ba? So that is on the way to support women against discrimination against them. So if we support them, we join them in their demands, we join them to make people know about this. But if we are against it, there's no other way but to keep our mouth shut or to keep away from their businesses. That is on that. That is on my take on that. That is my litanya, as they would say. So, according to Amnesty International, social media platforms allow people to express themselves. However, companies and government have failed to protect their users from online abuse, prompting many women, in particular, to self-censor or leave platforms altogether. So, with progress of time, development, many development have gone, different technological advancement has given to us, especially in social media platforms. Social media platforms have given us the privilege to connect with other people around the world and to express what we want and to convey the message to many people. So whatever with this, companies and governments have failed to protect their users from online abuse. So with social media being public and open to everyone, negative things, issues, and concerns have also been taking place during in this platform. So online abuse, prompting it will affect especially women to abuse, or they will go to illegal sites that is it will be against their rights or against their feelings or emotions or what they believe in. So with the public and vastness of social media, many women will be led into discrimination or any forms of discrimination or abuses. To be honest, we don't have a measure, we don't have a way to stop social media or the internet because it is very big. Many people uses it and we don't have any control about it. So, di ba? If you look at it that way, it is nearly impossible to do this, but there can be actions done in order to at least prevent or lessen the cases of these issues. So, however, social media has given more prominence in some parts of the world to women's call for equality in the workplace, an issue that calls to narrow the gender pay gap currently standing at 23% globally. So with social media, talking about anything, especially on the issues of women, is also a place to call on their demand, especially for women in the workplace, since there are still issues or presence of women having, for example, less work pay than of men. So with that, they can use social media to raise this awareness or raise this issue against discrimination of women in the workplace. Since, diba, as we can see here, currently, there is a 23% gap globally on women's pay than of the work pay of the men. So 20%, malaki-laki din yung gap or differences ng nakukuha na pera ng mga kababaihan sa kanilang trabaho. The women worldwide are not only paid less but are more likely to do unpaid work and to work in informal, insecure, and unskilled jobs. So aside from they are given less pay, may pinapapagawa pa sa kanila na it is not related to their work or hindi pala kasali sa kanilang pay or sa kanilang sweldo, at pinapalagay pa rin sa working environment na informal or they are not uh, hindi comfortable para sa kanila. So, di ba, if you're an employer, you should make sure that you should ask or you should make sure, no matter what the gender, as long as they're your employee, you should make sure that these people should be working on a positive, comfortable, and safe environment for them to work. So, diba? Since most women are experience of this, so we need to focus more on this issue, especially relating to women in the workplace. But in general, employees or companies should apply this to everyone. So last, gender-based violence disproportionately affects women, yet it remains to a human rights crisis that politicians continue to ignore. So aside from discrimination, di ba, any form of discrimination, violence is a form of discrimination. So gender-based discrimination heavily affects women. There are many cases of violation, abuse of women in the workplace, in their homes, any any places. There are women who are discriminated violently. So, di ba? So with these cases arising, or with this case of discrimination arising, there is still little action that has been done. Although there are some that helped, greatly helped, but there is still a need to do more, diba? But here, politicians continues to ignore this type of issues, and it is not right for us to ignore this. No matter how small this case or small the issue are, it affects all of us. To be honest, kung there are many cases, not just only in the country, discrimination happens around the world, even time immemorial, or in the pages of history, we can see discrimination. And in the sad part, it is still present up until now. No matter what your gender, no matter what your race is, no matter your educational or economic background, discrimination is present. So, on and to summarize all of that, at in this end of the lesson, to summarize all of this, discrimination, we see discrimination to be a bad thing. It is really, really bad. It it is against we are discrimination is against the rights of every people, the what their backgrounds, their ethnicities, their beliefs, their gender, everything, any aspects or characteristic that makes a person or people. Discrimination has no limit. Discrimination can happen to everyone. Discrimination can happen to you. And on the sad part and dark part of it, everyone, almost everyone around the world experiences, especially in the minorities, the black, women, ethnic, gay, bisexual, trans, lesbian, everyone, any of these people, especially these minorities, especially these different people, are experiencing discrimination. And as we discussed a while ago, discrimination is present in the pages of history, and until now, there are still occurrence of discrimination. And with that, as social studies students, and as our as our duty as a citizens of this country and of the world, we should take part. We should take responsibility to to care for one another, to respect one another, to respect everyone's differences, di ba? Discrimination is because of this prejudice, di ba? Prejudice, hatred against one another. But if we look at things, or we look at people differently, we see we see their difference, but we don't have a violent reaction. We don't have any hatred or any resentment about it. Then discrimination would not happen at all. Then there would be no wars, no issues against one another, no issues against this group to another group. There will be no issues or problems about that. It would not even be a world issue. However, in reality, we're faced by it, and it's up to us on our actions, no matter how small or great it is. It's up to us what we can do in order to help, to stop, and to lessen or prevent the issues on discrimination. So, before I leave or end this lesson, I will share to you a quote. It is not our difference that divide us. It is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences, as quoted by Audre Lorde. So, di ba? We are different, but if we recognize these differences in a way that we accept it, we respect it, and different and celebrate it, there would be no divisions. There would be no conflicts between one another. It is true that we're different. All of us are different, unique, but we should see it more on the positive side. Recognize each other differences, accept, respect, and celebrate those differences. So that is on discrimination. Thank you so much for listening. And I am Gabriel Marchio Hormeliada. And thank you so much.
So that conclude the topic about racial discrimination. Racial discriminations. Thank you so much, Gab, for a wonderful presentation, and you provided a meaty discussion regarding the topic. Yeah, racial discrimination is not new. If we are just going to trace back the history from Indian civilization down to American civilization up to now, um, racial discrimination is still evident. So the least thing that we can do as a social study teacher is to, educate our students, especially the junior high school students, that discrimination or you know um, being different from the class or from a group does not make you less. So we need to, inculcate in their mind that we are different, we are diverse from each other, and we should um, embrace diversity. So that's it. Once again, good afternoon. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned something about racial discrimination.